Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of the Osasu Show. Our focus on today's episode is the judgment by the Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal. We'll be going into the streets later on in the episode to get the reactions of everyday Nigerians and what the way forward for the country is. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back on the Osasu Show. Welcome back to the Osasu Show. Joining me now is Mr. Segun Showunmi, the spokesman of the Atiku Abubakar presidential campaign. Thank you so much for joining me on today's program.
Thank you, Osasu.
So, we've all heard the judgment of the Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal. Your candidate did not win the elections. He has no standing in courts. How do you feel about that?
I think that, first of all, I would like to say that why did we go to court in the first instance? For sometimes in the muff of so many people talking, the most important information is missed. Atiku Abubakar went to court after the 2019 election for 4 reasons. The first is that you cannot deepen election jurisprudence except you get the court to weigh in on it. Recall that the PDP didn't go, Jonathan didn't go to court in 2015, so that it therefore means that logically, the last time any stretch or interpretation of the laws relative to a presidential election was done in this country would have been close to 8 years ago. That's a very long time. The law has to constantly be improving on itself, and that doesn't happen outside the court. First reason. The second reason is that if you get information and everybody comes with, their kind of evidence to say that the election was rigged, this happened there, that happened there, everybody's calling it out. A leader must decide the best route to take to manage frayed nerves and to figure out what's going on. And the only way that a Democrat will follow is the court, because other than that, people will go to self-help, you start having all sorts of riots and all of that. Quite unnecessary, so we went there for that. The third reason is that if the points that you hold heavily and hold strongly to in the case, you also need to go to court to have them weigh in on it. Sometimes you'll ask, if there is a law of fundamental nature, at least what was called or termed the law of fundamental nature, relative to certificate and all of that, there's nowhere else that can be adjudicated upon except in the court. And then the fourth, and maybe I'll leave that at that, is that our election process must come before all of us, both as voters, participants, interested party, rabble-rousers, and the government and policymakers. And they must ask one key question. If in an election process, INEC, which is supposed to be the independent ombudsman of everybody who's going to an election, suddenly finds itself now becoming stuck in the corner of whoever they have adjudged to have won at the expense of those who have issues, then you have to know that they are not playing the role of a double agent.
But the court countered that.
I'm laying the foundation of that. I'm coming to whatever it is that the court said. So for us, we believe that it's going to be too difficult for the ordinary person to be passionate and strong and hungry and powerful and fired up about this country and put himself on an election. Where is he going to find the resources? Where is he going to find the legal position? So all of that was where Atiku went. Now to the case. And let no one come and say that we cannot weigh in on issues that have now been fully decided. It can no longer be termed prejudice. And there is no special elevated position for judges in the society relative to those of us that have to deal with the consequences of their pronouncements. So I am going to be speaking exactly as I wish to speak. The judges in this particular case, I've thought about it overnight, and I came to the conclusion that they have allowed themselves to be boxed into the concept of what you call forum shopping. Forum shopping in law would be a situation where one of the aggrieved or anybody with an advantage pre-arranges a situation so that you're targeting a set of lawyers and a set of court situations so that you can go take your case to a court and just expect to be given favorable outcome. And it's a legal term. And what that would mean in this case is that you now begin to connect all the dots. You start first with a Gestapo attack on the judges, which was supposed to be some anti-corruption exercise that has suddenly stopped. Then you go to how they did with Onogian, and then you understand that the entire judiciary has been prepared for a situation of forum shopping. And don't forget, we also had the issue with the Bukachua, which we have to fight, losing days before we get out to recruit ourselves. So as far as we're concerned, it was a case of forum shopping, where you go to court where you think you have created an advantage and undue advantage to yourself. The second is, I believe that the learned justices, they didn't weigh in heavily on the doctrine of experience. There's a process in law called the doctrine of logic and the doctrine of experience. In the doctrine of experience, the learned previous judges used to ask the question, where is the opportunity of the judge or the court to weigh in on what is the right thing for society? For instance, if we come to a point now where, because of the pronouncement of the judges, people say, oh, you can just write anything you like on any form, swear any affidavit that you like, take it to court, and that's it. You'll be adjudged not. So there was an opportunity with this case for them to have done use the doctrine of experience. And what the doctrine of experience says is that a judge, when adjudicating on the case, has a bit of a legislative duty to also improve on the law. Obviously, perhaps they've not really bothered about that time, or they were not interested. So it means that there's an issue. The other one that I'm also worried about is that all the protocols tells you that when a commander-in-chief issues an order, be they lawful or unlawful, and his troops act on them, he is liable, in which case the court has said, oh, you can't bring evidence that the army did this, the police did this, because the president is, that you can't have transferred responsibility. That's not correct. The law is very clear on that. That's the basis by which you take former president and throw them at International Criminal Court, because they're always told to explain why they gave an unlawful instruction. But
there's a popular saying, the law is open to interpretation. So that case still applies here with the judges who were overseeing this case. So I understand where you're coming from, but the people who are watching today might think you're just an aggrieved member of the PDP who has lost out in the courts. Therefore, you are forcing or imposing your perception on the viewers. But I want to bring you...
If you had allowed me to finish the fourth point, then you would have probably understood that we're not doing that.
Okay, go ahead.
The fourth point is this. What is to be gained by an Atiku by going through such a laborious journey, other than a desire to bequeath to this country and improve democracy and improve the electoral process, and a process that can allow other Nigerians to benefit? Remember that some of these are leaders, even Buhari inclusive, they're no longer young. And therefore, they must weigh what they do seriously, because it will have very far-reaching implications for the next generation, for you and I. Osasu, if you were to go and contest for an election, and I contested, and you go to court with all of your pristine degree, and some other guy goes to court with nothing and even tells a lie on it, how do you look at yourself in the mirror and say that they're telling you that educational certification no longer matters? These are the issues. But there is no way you can improve this process unless you go through these laborious routes. And it's very expensive. It's expensive on the nerves, it's expensive on the pocket, it's expensive on the mood, it's expensive on everything. And listen to me, my dear. You haven't seen or heard Atiku make one single comment to incite the public. That's the easiest route. The easiest route would have been, we know go grip, and then you know what's happening, they're burning tires. No. So no matter how the judges weigh, and they're a court of first instance, they're not a court of final jurisdiction, we will still have to say, okay, we've heard what they've said, we will weigh in according to what we think, we'll take the judgment, the actual judgment, we'll read it, and then if we see that there's ground for appeal, we'll appeal. And if there are no grounds for appeal, we'll shut it down.
Well, speaking about the certificates, the tribunal said, and I quote, a candidate is not required under the Electoral Act to attach his certificate to his Form CF001 before a candidate is adjudged to have the requisite qualification to contest the election.
Again, the judges, so that's why I used that's why I brought you the concept called the doctrine of experience. It's not too many lawyers can't even mouth that. For you to mouth that, you must know what you're talking about. The doctrine of experience in that case ought to have told those judges that the routes to determining whether you are eligible are about 4 or 5. You must choose one. Do you want to go through the certificate route? Do you want to go through the experience route? Do you want to go through the school cert route? Or do you want to go through the route of, a model of everything? Haven't chosen one route that you want to follow. The law ought to be interpreted that you cannot be given a blanket check to suddenly now, they will now be the one now coming into the arena and then saying things that even his own lawyers did not say under cross-examination, when the trial was going, and helping him to find out that he could have said this, he could have meant this, he could have meant. That's not their role. With profound respect to them, that is not their role. Their role is to ask the judex to make their case. Their role is to weigh in on how the judex make their case. Their role is not to help one of the judex in their judgment by making a case that is bigger than the one that they themselves made. But you know what? The law is an ass. If judgment doesn't favor you, you don't expect me to be smiling and happy and jumping. I'm going to be quite unhappy about it, but it doesn't mean that life doesn't go on. What I'm saying to you, and the reason why I agreed to come, because your audience is young and also old and intelligent. And therefore, I expect that we will constantly understand that the law itself and jurisprudence is not static. Even the things we agree that we use today, like the popular caveat emptor that you all know, buyer beware, that was not always the position of the law. That was not always the position of statute. It took the courage of some judges to say that buyers were getting shortchanged because of the actions of sellers. And then they created the concept, caveat emptor. So for me, every case provides the judge with the opportunity of immortality, for he will be quoted either wrongly or rightly, or on the right side of the law.
I know your party is going to the Supreme Court. This
you don't
is not
know
a
that yet.
That's what your lawyer...
Well, the point is that you have to understand that before you decide whether we're going to the Supreme Court or we're not going to, we're not here for entertaining the Nigerian people or just paying lawyers money so that they can just be bleeding us. No.
So Michael Zekeme is wrong.
We will take, I'm not saying it's wrong. We will still, I mean, as yesterday night, the court, in open court, said they saw some type of error in the case. They were trying to, so they have to tidy it all up first. When they tidy it up and give the law, when we then go to the Supreme Court, you will be told in very firm and clear terms that we have gone to the Supreme Court. And you know what? Whatever be the case, if we choose to go to the Supreme Court, we will be going to the Supreme Court.
So I want to understand this.
Yes.
Are you going to the Supreme Court or are you not? Because Michael Zekeme said on TV
Michael Zekeme reacted on the immediacy of the case after coming out of court. I'm just saying to you that there's a process for that.
Okay.
You have to take the judgment first. And the court said there are some typo errors there. Yes. So until they give us a clean copy, they said they will give 33 copies each to each of the judex. Until we get a clean copy of the judgment and we read it, and our lawyers say that, okay, there's a point of law situation, which I think there is, then we'll go to court. I'm just trying to say, let's not do hasty generalization or assumptions.
Finally, in retrospect, what do you think your party could have done differently in pursuing what you term as justice through the Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal, giving the fact that your key witness, Osita Chidoka, his testimony, might I say, was basically thrown out? You know, what do you think the PDP would have done differently in planning its case against the incumbent?
I think better what you should say is that, is it possible for any of the citizens of Nigeria, be they a big party, a small party, or an individual, to run an election and hope to get justice against an incumbent who has all the trappings of powers of the country? That's the bigger question. That we went to court is the right thing to do. We need to accept that and know that. Because if people don't go to court anymore, it will mean that they will have to be looking for other clever ways or not so clever ways to seek redress. And I guarantee you, nations can explode. The fundamentals within the country indicates that. You saw just a couple of days ago a small action or some big xenophobic attack in South Africa. Did you not see the rushes? So when you see all of that, you understand that the flaring nature of elections and the emotive nature of election, it is still the court that will go to. So it's for all of us, not for the PDP now, to figure out how do we improve this process. And I'll tell you something. After the election, and I was kind of like thinking, okay, what kind of new processes, what new ideas can we get? I ran to Brazil, because they are also like a bit very close to the Africans and they're a mint country. And I went to the opposition party and said, guys, tell me about your party. That's the President Lula's party. Similar like us. Lula was president, he lost, another party won. Jonathan was president, he lost, another party. So I then asked, what's the issue? You know what he told me? And I want to share it. He said, the last election, the party that won in their country got 54 million votes. The Lula party, which is the Workers' Party, they got 50 million votes. And then I asked him, 50 million and 54 million, so much numbers, why is everything? You know what he said? He said our electoral process has so much integrity that nobody even quarrels about the outcome. We can quarrel about the arguments before getting to election day. We can quarrel about all of that. But in terms of the outcome, we don't quarrel. Then I asked him, how are you people able to get so much numbers? He said, we figured out that it was too irresponsible for us not to legislate that it was the law that anybody that is registered and of voting age must at least go through the process. So that if you go to the process, you can say none of the above, but you cannot be so indolent, so uninterested until you will leave your country in the hands of a very small percentage, and then you come and start shouting. And when you look at it, the young ones are the most guilty. The numbers available to young and not so young people in the country to make fundamental changes in how they want their lives to be is being wasted. Why? Because they see election narrative as banter. They see it as play on social media. But the critical call to action, which is be interested in the issues, ask the right questions, get the voter, go out on that day, refuse to be bribed, vote and make sure that your vote is counted, we fall short on that. But I tell you what, it's a work in progress. If tomorrow comes, we'll win again.
That's a fine place to leave it. Thank you so much, Mr. Showunmi.
Thank you, Osasu.
We'll take a short break right now. When we return, we go to the streets to speak to everyday Nigerians to find out their reactions to the judgment by the Presidential Elections Petitions Tribunal. Don't go anywhere.
Honestly, if I'm to say something there, the tribunals supposed to have considered that the legal system today, the courts, is the last hope of a common man. They're supposed to have put that into consideration. It's the last hope of common man. And for that reason, could have considered so many things. We are learning. And as far as we are learning, our legal system, we will follow suit, which, if it's not well done, might spell doom for the country in the nearest future.
I knew it would come like this. You understand? I knew it would come like this. Because if you follow the sequence of such judgment, right from 99 to date, it will always go in favor of the president. But if, to me, I'm not a lawyer, if things have to go the way it ought to be, on the right way, I don't think the president will come out in the flying color. I've seen on the pages of the newspaper where he said he knows he's going to flop Atiku. That means it has become a party issue.
Actually, to me, it did not come to me as a surprise because I, for one, voted for Mr. President. And of course, to me, it is a reaffirmation of the mandate given to him by Nigeria. So what the court has done yesterday is just to reaffirm that popular mandate that was given to Mr. President by the majority of Nigerians. So I think it is a good one. And of course, it's an indication of the total job being done by our judiciary. So I would like to commend them for doing a painstaking, for taking their time to deliver that long hours judgment yesterday.
Actually, you in this election tribunal, you do not expect anything truth to come out from this judgment, because as you can see, if you watch deeply in the election, There were no sincerity, you know, what happened, violence, the speech of the president during his interview in Daura. You will notice that if possible for him to lose the election, he's not even ready to hand over. And the body language of the INEC is not, there is no sincerity in it. So if you have a country that for a result to just be declared between 24 hours, you're having a week before you get the result for the election. It takes a week for you to get the result of a presidential election. You can see that our electoral art is not working fine, and the INEC we have to also is not a transparent INEC.
Yes, you see, there is one thing that we have to understand. Judiciary is, the courts is where the people that feel aggrieved usually go to seek redress. And the PDP candidate in the person of Atiku Abubakar accused Mr. President of parading a fake or doesn't have a certificate at all. So he went to court and the court delivered judgment. And I think you still have that right to appeal the judgment if he's not satisfied with what the court has ruled yesterday. So that's just my opinion.
It's very unfortunate that we don't even have judiciary anymore. You understand? And I can't blame them because everybody's afraid. If president can use certificate of secondary school be a president, it means somebody from DG or CBN can bring your report card now. So I'm going to look for my own report card. Going to school now is no more useful. Certificate, secondary school, they say you can use it and be president of this country. I'm going to carry now. I can go find my report card now.
Even before the announcement of the results from the election tribunals, we already saw the situation on ground and every other thing. Even before the question they threw at our president during the election, he said that nobody is going to unseat him. During the tribunal results and every other thing, you saw that the lawyers, I don't know if you watched it live, the lawyers are already sleeping. So that shows they already know the result. So they're just trying to play games with Nigerians. So I'm not happy about the result actually.
Putting an end to this is, there has to be, everything we do, our leaders do have to be on a playing ground. If it is white, let it be white. If it is black, let it be black. Let us not twist things. You know, as I told you earlier, I am not a lawyer, but when they want to judge a case, they refer similar cases that have happened some years back. And then at the end of the day, they come out with their own planned actions.
That's it for today's program. Don't forget to follow us on social media at The Osasu Show, at TOS TV Network, at Osasu Igbenedian, and at The Osasu Show Foundation on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. The third edition of The Osasu Show Symposium is coming up. Our focus this year is the 21st century woman and her role in nation building. This would hold on the 23rd of October at the NAF Conference Center in Abuja. It's going to hold from 9 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Don't miss it. The registration link will be up next week, so make sure you sign up. We're going to have a gathering of thought leaders across STEM, development, politics, and advocacy. And this event is open to both men and women. We want everybody to come together to speak about the way forward for women in nation building. So I look forward to seeing you there. And in the meantime, don't forget to read news and sustainable development and current affairs on our website, www.tostvnetwork.com. For my personal articles, you can read it on osasuigbenedian.com. I'll see you same time, same place next week. And until then, take very good care of yourself. God bless you.